Today, I'm speaking with Tom Schwab of Interview Valet. If you are serious about getting guests for your podcast, and you're serious about being a guest on a podcast, this episode is for you. My name is Kerry Green, and I am the Client Happiness Guy at podcastfasttrack.com, and this is Podcastification. This show is all about podcasting. How to do it, how not to do it, best practices, interesting news items that have to do with the realm of podcasting, and who knows what else. And I'm trying to do it all with a little bit of fun and some information to help you get a show going, keep yours going, or make it better. And if you like what's going on here on the show, I would appreciate it, so appreciate it, if you could leave a rating or review on iTunes. You can find out how to do that at podcastfasttrack.com/review. That's enough of that kind of stuff. Let's get you podcastificated right away. This is going to be a great conversation. I am joined by Tom Schwab of Interview Valet. He has a very interesting service that he offers that is both for guests and for podcasters. I met Tom at Podcast Movement here in Chicago about a month or so. Tom, how are you doing today?
Kerry, it is great to be here and to talk with you. And it's like we get to carry on our conversation that we had at Podcast Movement, and I'll let everybody listen in.
I met Tom at a booth that Interview Valet had at Podcast Movement, and I just walked up and said, hey, tell me your spiel. And he did such a great job. I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to let you know about the service that Tom does. Now, Tom, tell me first of all, in a nutshell, what the service is, and we'll get into the specifics of both sides of the business here in just a moment. And also tell me your journey about how you got into this particular niche.
It's all about inbound marketing. You know, content is what drives our online businesses. And content can be blogs, it can be videos. But what we have found is that podcast interviews, so being on other people's podcasts, is the best way to grow your business. And so we are a full-service agency that works with guests to get them on podcasts that their ideal customers are already listening to. So while we work for the guest, we also provide a lot of great things for free for the host. So we can talk about both sides of it, of what we can do if somebody wants to get on other podcasts, and also what we offer them if they're a podcast host and getting them great certified guests. You know, like I said, we started from inbound marketing, and it was an interesting journey because we've built our business and other businesses prior to this, you know, with content, blogs and everything. And it was a couple of years ago that we got one of our clients on a podcast with an interview. And we were just amazed by the traffic that came back, the quality of the traffic. Blogs convert about 1% to 2%, but what we were seeing was conversion rates of 25% to 50%. So as we started to test this and do more of it, you know, we saw the great potential that it had. We saw that it was a real system that worked for various industries. It was a recipe in order to take people from being listeners to visitors to leads. So we perfected that over pretty much the last 18 months, tested everything. You know, I'm an engineer at heart. And then we were launching that out. And one of the things we heard from so many of our clients is they said, let me be the guest and you take care of all the rest. So that's where the business came from. And one of the things that we were most surprised by was how much the podcast hosts loved it. They've told us that it's easy to say yes to an Interview Valet guest because they show up on time, sounding great with professional equipment, something to say, something to offer, can be guaranteed they'll promote the show on their social media. So really the business came out of listening to what our customers said and what they were asking for. And it's been fun.
Let's start with the guest side of things. If someone has a book or a new product or a launch of something that they are wanting to promote, and they think, hey, maybe I should get on podcasts and talk about this, and I introduce them to you, Tom Schwab, with Interview Valet, how would you tell them about your service?
Kerry, if you look at it, marketing at its basic is starting a conversation with somebody that could be an ideal customer. So that's where we start with. And we look at this as a marketing. You know, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So if it's an author that wants to get his book out there, if it's a product that they want to get out there in front of customers, if it's a coach, if it's a brand, all of that, we start with them from the very beginning of identifying who do you want to talk to? What message are you going to give to them? Sort of an inbound marketing assessment of what can you do to move them from being listeners to visitors to leads. So we go through all of that prep work. Then after we identify the podcast that they, would be ideal for, then we reach out to the podcast host, introduce them to the podcast host. We take care of all the scheduling, all the preparation so that when they show up on that podcast, they are there to amaze. And, some people say, well, is that making the connection for the interview? And I'm like, well, that's such a small part of it because, today there's 300,000 podcasts out there. So getting on a podcast is very easy, but getting on the right one is the key there. And then also, it's not just having the appearance. The interview is the fuel, but do you have the system then that we help you build in order to take those people, to move them to your website, to give them a reason to go there, and then once they're there, to engage with them. So really it's an overall marketing process, and we do that either on a blitz basis. So if you've got an author that has a new book coming out, you may say, I want to do a virtual book tour. I want to get on a dozen or 24 podcasts just as the book is launching. Because that way, can get all that out there. If you're a franchisor or a business looking for continual leads, well, then maybe it's better for you to do a couple interviews a month or 4 interviews a month, like 1 a week. So we work with them on that.
Okay, so this is a lot more than just setting up an interview. It's prepping the guest. It's helping them kind of strategize about what it is they have to offer and bring to the show. I really like the way that you're approaching that because so many podcasters have great things to share. They just don't always know clearly what it is. And having someone like you in their corner to help them think that through, it really sounds like a winning opportunity to me.
Yeah, and some people say, is it a marketing agency? And I say, yes. Is it a PR agency? Yes, it's sort of like that. Is it a speakers bureau? Yes, it's all of those things because with our clients, the best ones that we work with, their time is so valuable and they need to use that to be in front of people. Before you're on any podcast interview, you better know who the host is, who the audience is, what questions they're going to ask, and we prep our guests for all of that. And, we make sure they've got the professional sounding equipment. We make sure that every interview is perfect for them. And, Kara, let me give you another example is that with our guests, we always provide them the checklist of here's the, 15 things you should do just before a podcast. And, they always joke that the checklists are written in blood. And a lot of times it's better to learn from someone else's mistake than your own. So a simple thing as simple as before you get on a podcast interview, if you've got Dropbox, you don't want to be talking on this great interview. Skype sounds great. And then all of a sudden somebody sends you a video and takes up all that bandwidth. So we think through everything to make it easy for our guests.
Yeah, good points. Well, Tom, let's just cut to the chase in terms of cost, because I know a lot of people are probably thinking, okay, if I want to be this guest, what's that going to cost me if I went through Interview Valet?
Sure. And so from that, we price it per interview. So if you're doing 2 interviews a month, it's $697. If you're doing 4 interviews a month, it's $997. And that includes everything with that. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So we don't have a long-term contract. It's a month-to-month obligation there. All we ask for is when we get started with the client, let's make sure that we work together for at least a quarter to get everything up and running and seeing it, because that's one of the things is we really see the analytics, We can track which interviews do the best. Social media posts the same way, which ones are doing the best.
Well, that sounds great, Tom. I know that people who need the service really do need the service, and it's going to be great to have that option out there for those who are interested. So tell me about it from the podcaster's side. Okay, if he's needing guests on his show, how can he work with Interview Valet?
Yeah, and that's one of the things is we only work for the guest, but we provide services to the host. We think that's very important. There's some services out there that charge both the host and the guest, and in our minds, that really sets up a conflict of interest. We only accept payment from the guest. So for the host, we provide these certified guests for free. So what's a certified guest? It's somebody that we have vetted to make sure that they have a message, they have offers, they have a story to tell, they're engaging. And the other thing we do is make sure that they have professional sounding equipment. As a podcaster, there's nothing more frustrating to set up an interview, get your time all set up, prep for it, and then have a guest that's not ready. And for our certified guests, you can be sure they show up on time, they sound great, they know everything about your podcast. They're prepared for it. They look at this as a major media appearance. And so with that, you can make sure that they'll show up, they'll have a great interview, and then afterwards, there'll be a landing page that we'll set up to send your listeners to, and then also that we'll promote it on social media. I guess the best guests a lot of times for podcasts are busy people. And you always want them to promote the episode. And the truth is sometimes they get busy with that. We make sure that we take care of it and that all the podcast interviews are promoted not only on their social media, but on Interview Valets also. So from that standpoint, everything we do for the host is free.
That sounds totally impressive. Now, what does a person need to do to connect with you and say, hey, here's my show, I would love to have you send guests my way whenever you find someone that you feel is a fit?
That's very easy. Just go to interviewvalet.com/host. Or even if you just go to the homepage there of interviewvalet.com, you'll see a button that says Podcast Host Start Here. And that will take you to the page where you can sign up and request certified guests. There's another offer on that page also, is we have an affiliate program. And the only affiliate program we have is for podcasters. Those are the only ones we work with. And what that allows is that if you're interviewing people on your show, you see which ones are great, which ones could really grow their business by being on more podcasts. Well, if you refer those to us, we give an ongoing 10% commission on all of the revenue from that. So if you look at it, if they picked the $997 package, that 4 interviews a month, that would be, $98 to you each month. So really you're looking at, the potential for one client could monetize your podcast up to $1,200 a year.
Yeah, that's a great asset. I think that's something many of my listeners may be very interested in. Well, Tom, it all sounds like a wonderful service that you're providing, and I like the full service aspect of it, especially for those who are paying you to be a guest on shows. I mean, you're helping them to be very successful with what they're doing, so I love that. It's a kind of quality that I like to see in services that are provided. So tell me what I should have asked you about your service that I didn't.
I guess the only thing that maybe I should have pointed out is where we really focus in right now. We believe that we need to focus on certain niches, certain verticals in order to provide our clients the best and also the podcast host the best. So currently we're focusing on 3 verticals. The biggest one is on business. The second one is faith and Christianity. And then the third one is health, nutrition, and wellness. So we'll be expanding into more with time, but really that's where most of our guests, or that's where all of our guests are, and really where the relationships with most of our podcasters. And really it's not so much a question of where you are, but where your ideal listeners are.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate this. I assume the best place for people to connect with you is at interviewvalet.com.
That's right, Kerry, and I'll even put a special page together that has some of the information that we talked about. If any of your listeners go to interviewvalet.com/podcastification, we'll just have everything we talked about there. No matter when you come, you'll see all that information.
Okay, well, I sure appreciate that, Tom, and make sure you get that spelling right. It's not the most normal name in the world, podcastification. So, just like it sounds. Tom, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you, Kerry.
You bet. Hello. So there you have it, Interview Valet with Tom Schwab. Sounds like a service that quite a few of my clients might be able to use, so I'm excited to pass this information along to them. If you have questions for Tom, be sure you reach out to him. And if you have any suggestions or requested topics for me, your host of Podcastification, I would love to entertain those, so please reach out to me. It's Kerry@podcastification.com. Hey, that's it for today's show. Go out and have a podcastificating day. This show is brought to you by Podcast Fast Track, where my team provides professional podcasting services without the time suck. Full production, editing, and show notes, all in one monthly subscription package. You can find out more at podcastfasttrack.com. Now go out and make it a podcastificating day. Tom, I lost you there for just a little bit when you were talking about let's see, what were you talking about? I can't even remember right where your words cut out. So you got in all the pricing. I think that's going to be good. So I can just edit out these other pieces that kind of glitched. You know, Skype's a wonderful tool that way, isn't it?
When it works, it's wonderful.